At it again right here on Pro Basketball today. We are live on SportsGrid. It's Kevin Walsh. It's Coach James Young. And man, what a busy time for Pro Hoops. No other way to put it. You have got the NBA playoffs rocking and rolling. We have our Western Conference Finals set with the Oklahoma City Thunder, who have yet to lose a playoff game, taking on the San Antonio Spurs, the only team really in a 2-year window, it feels like, who could say they've had OKC's number. It sets up for what should be a fantastic series in the Eastern Conference. We've got one more to go. The Detroit Pistons and the Cleveland Cavaliers will be playing a game number 7 on Sunday. Each of these teams played a 7-game series in round 1. They figured, why rest? Let the Knicks kick their feet back. Obviously, they swept the Philadelphia 76ers and have been enjoying quite a bit of time off as they await the winner of Detroit and Cleveland. It's not just the NBA postseason action. We had the NBA draft lottery since we last spoke to you here on this show. The Washington Wizards come out on top. It follows with the Utah Jazz, the Memphis Grizzlies, and the Chicago Bulls rounding out that top 4. You could argue that the 5th pick was important as any of those first 4, as Indiana lost the rights to that draft choice with the Ivica Zubac trade, ending up seeing the 5th pick convey to the Los Angeles Clippers. We'll get Coach's reaction to all of that, and we will mix in some WNBA. No WNBA on a Saturday. The league picks back up on a Sunday, but man, we have already had, I think, a pretty loud opening week here of W action here, Coach. So usually my intros don't go that long. I like to get you in quick, but JY, I mean, there's just an outrageous amount of basketball to get to.
Kevin, we don't have enough time. I mean, it is what it is, but it's exciting times in the world of basketball, like you said, and there's a lot to get to. So let's get down to business.
Yeah, I think, JY, the appropriate place for us to start, though, man, is the San Antonio Spurs really handling business in dominant fashion. And, you know, series come in all shape and sizes, right? Sometimes you get a 4-game series that feels, hey, that was competitive, despite it being a sweep. Sometimes you get a 6-game series where you go, man, as somebody who bet Minnesota plus 2.5 games, JY, thank goodness we got out of there with a win, because these teams, by the end of it, weren't all that close. The Spurs, in their 4 victories, won by 38, 29, and 30 in 3 of those 4, a 7-point road win in game number 3 being that other victory here. I'm not taking away from Minnesota. We can talk Minnesota, but JY, for a Spurs team who have their eyes on legitimately winning a championship, the Spurs' goal is not, hey, make the conference finals and push OKC. Their goal is to win a championship. I thought they needed to close this series in 6, and they absolutely did it in style, JY, with a 139-109 victory.
And it's just the guard play. I think, you know, when you look back at this, and I David Shepard from Sirius XM NBA on a couple of days ago, and he made a great point. Like, the 2 games that the Spurs lost, Wemby was awful in game 1, and he got thrown out in game, I guess, 4, right?
Mm-hmm.
When he played, it was a different series. And the crazy thing about it is last night, Wemby was pedestrian, but when you turn around, Kevin, and you get, I mean, 32 out of Castle, 21 out of Fox, 18 out of Champagny, right? 15 out of Harper. Like, it's very OKC-ish. It's death by 1,000 cuts. And it's like that is what makes what we're about to see more the most intriguing of them all, because, and I'm a Knicks fan, with all due respect to everybody else in the East, these are the 2 youngest teams, they're the 2 deepest teams. And you saw a way that and this is what is important, and I think this is what we need to learn about some of these young teams, is when you have a team on the ropes in a closeout game, can you answer the bell and do it? Kevin, 13-point game at the halftime, and then 36-23 third quarter drive home safely, end the series.
Yeah.
That is what I saw last night. It's a young team that said, we got a team on the ropes. We're on the road. We don't want to play around. Let's throw a knockout punch now and end it. Something that we've seen OKC do last year and this year as well.
Yeah, JY, I think your point, though, about how the way San Antonio was built feels similar to Oklahoma City is important. And I think teams around the league are going to take note. Darren, by the way, again, long intro. Darren Morey got fired. All right. One of the most noteworthy GMs of the last, certainly decade, JY, maybe longer in this league, gets fired. And you could pretty easily argue it's because he was stuck in a time that this league no longer exists in, where he goes, hey, man, I got a big three, Maxey, Embiid, George. And that, because, Joe, I'm sure you follow Sixers fans, talk to Sixers fans. They're watching these NBA playoffs, and a guy like Julian Champagnie, who was a part of their organization, getting critical minutes. They're watching Paul Reed, who was a part of that organization for a while, get critical minutes. Jared McCain, obviously, get critical minutes. The youth and depth that Oklahoma City brought to the table last year was obviously something that San Antonio brought to the table this year. But here's the thing. It's not just young depth. You have to also be really, really good. And, man, we know how good Wemby is. We do. But, JY, and I know you're such a fan of both these guys, what makes San Antonio so exciting is the combination of Stephon Castle and Dylan Harper for what should be the next however long the Wemby run is, right? I'm not acting as if those guys are on Victor Wembanyama's level. I am not. What I am saying is, in the way the Golden State Warriors, when Steph Curry was ready to be Steph Curry, they had Klay Thompson and Draymond Green in-house because they drafted well, right? And again, those guys weren't, first and second overall choices, right? But Wemby has what should really be, JY, the second and third best guys for this run, right? They have two guys that I think we both expect to make multiple All-Star games. And let me give a shout out to a guy that we didn't know a lot about. And I thought, man, is this risky to hand Mitch Johnson the Victor Wembanyama job? I thought he should have been Coach of the Year, quite frankly. I thought that he was not taken serious enough in that race. And in the same way, Wemby, Harper, Castle, these guys are going to be here for a decade. Mitch Johnson, coach, he probably will outlast all of them, right? He'll probably be the Spurs coach for the next 25 years.
If you think about the way the Spurs are, kind of like, how the Steelers were with
yeah,
they just kind of got guys for a long time.
Look,
I'll let you boy with that one. But it's just amazing just how they transform, and they're young. And that's the thing is, folks, they're not going anywhere. You don't sell me on, we need big market teams. We need teams that are competitive and young, that grow up before our eyes. And buckle up, folks, because this series between OKC and San Antonio, this is not going 4, this is not going 5. This is going to be a heavyweight fight, and we're going to see this. This may be like the Rocky movie. We may get 5 of these in a row, 5 years. And honestly, Caleb, I wouldn't complain, not one bit.
And the other item, and we can expand on this if we have some time to really try and line up Thunder, against San Antonio. I've talked about Shea being the best player in the world. I think if you go Finals MVP in the same season, follow it up with an MVP season while being the favorite to win Finals MVP the whole year, you probably got a pretty good case. But Wemby has the 07 LeBron. Yeah, but we actually know who the best player in the world is. It's on the board. Let's talk Detroit and Cleveland after a quick break with you guys right here on Sports. All right, guys, we're back at the right here on Pro Basketball today. And man, oh man, did I enjoy myself some Game 6, Detroit-Cleveland. Because it's nice when a plan comes together. And look, there are some people I know who have been having a great time betting Cavs Pistons because, they've been able to pick their spots, home teams, whatever it may be. I found some of the home road splits to just be so jarring for these two teams. People kept saying, "Hey, the water's fine." I was like, I don't know, man. It looks cold. You look cold. I don't know if I'm ready to dip my toe in. Game 6, Detroit, though, JY, really interests me because in the same way it was hard to imagine Cleveland losing all their road games, it was also hard to imagine Cleveland winning all of their home games. And it's a Pistons team who's had their back against the wall before. And gosh, did they answer with their back against the wall here in Game 6. No Orlando collapse-esque needed from Cleveland. The Pistons put their foot on the gas, JY, and just kept it rolling. And they won in a way I feel we haven't seen from them a lot. A lot of the backup against the wall performances are Cade Cunningham giving you 30, 35, and hey, maybe one or two guys came along. This team had 6 guys, not only in double digits, they had 5 guys, JY, go for 14 or more. Cade was the leading scorer at 21. I was really impressed with what Detroit brought to the table here to force a Game 7 back in their building.
Yeah, I just think it's one of these situations where they just, I don't know, maybe they play better with their backs against the wall. 30-21, 30-19, third quarter. I mean, listen, when you have a chance to close out a series and you have as many field goals as turnovers, yikes. That's a rough scene that third quarter. And I think what people were saying about Detroit, especially if they were to get by, and played in New York is, well, you only have to worry about Cade. You have to worry about Cade. Well, now all of a sudden, although Shore fouled out, he gave you 10. Duran, who's been an enigma, let's be honest, this entire postseason finally stepped up and gave you a double-double. Big ball Paul Reed, someone that you talked about in the opening segment that Philadelphia misses. He gives you something off the bench. Duncan Robinson bangs 2 threes in the third quarter. And it's just, this is where Detroit can be really good if you spread the wealth around and you become harder to guard and you can't load up. Meanwhile, on the other side, let's be honest, K-Dub, you have 2 guys that can create shots, and that's Donovan Mitchell and James Harden. Well, they went 12 for 33 from the floor, right? Evan Mobley, all right, 6 for 14, better. But they didn't have anybody else. And it sets up such an interesting storyline for Game 7 because, Kevin, I'll go there. Legacies are on the line for some of these Cavs guys. Like, if they go 3-2, finally win a road game, and lose at home the way they do, and then lose Game 7, if James Harden has another bad Game 7, here we go. Here comes the conversation. If Donovan Mitchell does not perform, only one Western Conference final, where do they look to go? Do they look at Jared Allen and Evan Mobley? Jared Allen, a little bit better, but he's had his moments. So it sets up a very interesting Game 7 for a Detroit team, Kevin, I think probably feels very comfortable with the fact that they went on the road. The road guys played well. Now you got to bring this back to Detroit. And all the momentum is with a younger, fresher team in the Detroit Pistons.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about the Harden stuff for a second here. Because this is the exact conversation I remember having last year with people, and it's not died down. So I don't blame Coach in any capacity for bringing up what he's bringing up, because he's not wrong that if Harden is not good in Game 7, or really if they lose in Game 7, people are going to lead, or literally going to lead shows with Harden. And I will say exactly what I said last year when the Clippers were eliminated in a Game 7, that he was not good in against the Denver Nuggets. Why are we focused on James Harden? Guys, the James Harden story is written. It's what it is. He is, in the regular season, a true all-time great. I mean, honestly, for his career, he is a first-ballot Hall of Famer. I'll say this, Coach knows I'm a huge D-Wade guy. I don't think those conversations are as disrespectful as everybody else makes them out to be. The Harden postseason is why people feel like that. But guys, why in the world do you think that's going to change at the age of 37, right? In year 17 or 16, whatever it might be, JY. What, like on team 6, like, why would that change? Like, I'm not worried about Harden's legacy because I think the legacy's written. I think we know who James Harden is. I don't think at the age of 37, James Harden is going to transition into a guy we label a winner, right? A guy we label a clutch postseason performer. He's not going to outdo, unless he wins finals MVP this year, which nobody actually thinks is going to happen. I'm more interested in Donovan Mitchell, who has tried to break through again and again and again and hasn't been able to. And while he's had some huge games in this series, has overall had a really up and down postseason, I thought. And Donovan Mitchell was horrific against Detroit in Game 6. 18 points, 6 of 20 shooting, a game worst, minus 25. Minus 25. I'm interested in Evan Mobley, who, by the way, was the reigning defensive player of the year that a lot of people felt was going to be a perennial all-star, entering into top 15, maybe top 10 player in the world conversations, who is not in those conversations anymore. That's what I'm interested in, guys. I'm interested in Kenny Atkinson, who last year won Coach of the Year, okay, being up against a JB Bickerstaff, who's, listen, doesn't have an awesome postseason resume, and a lot of Cavs fans will tell you Kenny's getting out-coached. I'm not saying I understand what Harden is. I think we all do. There are other guys on this Cavs roster who I feel are taking pressure off themselves because they know the eyeball's going to be put on James Harden, and I've found that to be a bit silly, to be honest, throughout this run. Let's talk a little more Pistons-Cavs. Game 7, of course. Who the Knicks would rather play? All next right here on SportsGrid. Pro basketball today on SportsGrid, and with the Pistons forcing a Game 7, the Knicks are going to get more than a week rest in between series. They've won 7 straight games, the Knicks, and most of them have not been close. And again, their only losses have actually have been by a point. So with the Detroit win, JY, the question sits on the table: who would the Knicks rather play? Secretly, who are they rooting for in Game 7? Between the Pistons and the Cavs, I will say this, Coach. I think the answer is pretty obvious. I think you'd much rather play Cleveland. The Pistons have home court advantage. And I think that alone makes the Cavs a more tempting team to face, because so far, obviously, the Knicks have done a great job in Madison Square Garden. They've also done an excellent job on the road. Again, they've been fantastic in this postseason. But you'd much rather have home court advantage if you are the Knicks. And then when you just factor in, it feels like no team had the Knicks number more than Detroit during the regular season, Coach. I think, again, outwardly or not, they have to be rooting for the Cavs to pull off a Game 7 upset.
Well, I also think there's 2 other reasons why you're going that way, and I tend to agree because I've been bouncing it back and forth. I also think, respectfully, when you have 2 guards that are dynamic, and Mitchell, and obviously, and Harden, I think the Knicks have the level of defenders. Bridges, Deuce, Hart's played exceptional defense. I don't think he's gotten a lot of credit during this playoff run. And then OG looks like, according to folks, that he's trending towards playing in Game 1. He was a full participant, did everything in practice yesterday to the Knicks, according to our guy Ian Begley of SNY. So there is that factor, because Cade presents a different dynamic because of his physicality, right? And his ability at 6'6" to give Bridges more trouble because he can muscle him. He's taller than Josh Hart. So, then it gets weird. Like, do you now put OG on him? So to me, I think that's where it is. I also think that Detroit can give you more defensive pressure in regards to a sore being put on Jalen Brunson and just hounding him. When it comes to the Knicks, it's all about how they play. There was a talk that obviously, and it's starting to come out now, that Karl-Anthony Towns is the one that with the Mike Brown said, put me in the high post top of the key area and let me work from there. And it's worked. But did it against Okongwu, decent player, and then did it against Joel Embiid, was compromised. Jalen Duren is far more athletic, and Paul Reed is secretly athletic that I think he can also give more of problems. I also think when Mitchell Robinson gets in front of Jared Allen looks like he just saw the boogeyman, because he just can't deal with Big Mitch. So to me, yeah, if you're in New York, you want to play Cleveland, but if the New York Knicks is what we saw in the last 7 games, I don't know if it matters, because of it's different. The ball is not getting stuck in Jalen Brunson's hands. They're going through Cat. Now you're using Brunson off ball, which he's really crafty, and it creates movement, and you have cutters. So I do think New York's style of play is going to be better, which that's why they're the favorite. But I also think if there's a team that's going to rough it up and rough up the series and be physical and not let you get off those cuts, to me, is more likely to be Detroit than Cleveland.
I will add to your point of it might not matter. I think the Knicks have more pressure on them this year in the Eastern Conference Finals than right, JY? Like I think than any question they had last year against Indiana. And I think part of that is just the simple math of the Knicks have been off for a week plus. the Cavs and the Pistons, doesn't matter who they play, have and we're gonna we'll get to the lottery after the break. I know that's coming up. The Cavs and Pistons have each now played 7-game series in both rounds 1 and round 2. It takes a toll. Playoff games are hard. These guys are playing 40 minutes a night if they have it going. As somebody who picked Detroit to make it out of the East, and certainly thought they could have faced the Knicks, right, in this round, I've lost a lot of confidence simply through the game edge that the Knicks have gained. We'll get to the draft lottery after a quick break with you guys right here on SportsGrid. Pro basketball today on SportsGrid, and the wait for the lottery was palpable, and the Sunday drawing was fascinating as the Wizards won the lottery. The Jazz came up second behind them. The Grizzlies and Bulls were the big movers on the day. It meant the Pacers fell out and lost their pick to the LA Clippers. The Nets fall all the way back to 6th in this NBA draft order. I want to start with this, Coach. AJ Dybantsa has become a pretty decent favorite to be the first overall selection, as high as minus 450. The number has come back a bit. We're now seeing minus 300 in the market. Do you believe that AJ Dybantsa should be a no-brainer first overall selection for what would be the Washington Wizards?
I do. Because of the concerns that you have with Darren Peterson, right? Whether it's the injury concerns, whether it's the love of the game concerns, I just think it's hard to bypass a nearly 6'10", 217-pound kid that in one of the best leagues in the country averaged 25 points and 7 rebounds and 4 assists a game. I just think it's hard to pass that up, and I know what is starting to come out, that obviously AJ, who's from, I do believe, Massachusetts, went to prep school at Utah Prep, stayed at BYU, wants to go to Utah. And if I'm Washington, I personally would take Dybantsa. I'd rather take the guy that I think, one, showed they had the better complete resume, but also, in my opinion, I think honestly has more of the upside. You talk about, some of these guys, and I think you figure it out, right? You figure it out. Now, if you're also Washington, and if you don't want Debanza, I think you let everybody know you're taking him. And you force Utah to come up and get him because you know that's what they want. And that sets up an interesting dynamic for if you're Danny Ainge and you really want this kid because he's not only going to be able to help elevate your franchise, he's going to sell tickets because he's in the state. Hint, hint, Olivia Miles, Dallas Wings, story for another day. I think personally, you make him go get him. And I think Utah will try every avenue to do so. The question is, does Washington K-Dub even entertain it?
Yeah, I think they will. So I have found myself admittedly a little annoyed at some of the conversation surrounding the players in this class. I saw a tweet from, it doesn't matter who. Any chance Caleb Wilson's on the board at 4? I don't know. Is there any chance the 4th best player in the class is on the board at 4? Probably. Is it probably a good chance? I've had people be like, oh my gosh, you got to cut it out with this Boozer stuff. Come on. Boozer and Debanza is not a conversation. Guys, I don't know what's going on here, but this trio in Boozer, Debanza, and Peterson has been a trio the whole time. And I understand it doesn't look like Cam Boozer could win a dunk contest, but that does not mean he's not in the same tier as AJ Debanza. And I understand that the Darren Peterson Kansas season was weird, but I'm sure a lot of you saw the clip the other day where he said it's been great to compete against AJ, and it's also been great to come out on top when I've played against him every single time. Because that's true, okay? I don't know. I think what's going on is Debanza feels safer than Peterson because of the seasons, and he feels like he has a higher ceiling than Boozer. So a lot of people are trying to separate guys in ways that I don't think a lot of what we saw from this college season backs up. Specifically, though, for me, Coach, around Cam Boozer. I am finding myself having to defend Boozer more than I ever would imagine. I'm just going to give a simple list that, to me, makes this really easy for everybody to understand. Here's the list. Anthony Davis, Kevin Durant, Zion Williamson, Cooper Flagg, Cameron Boozer. As I'm sure Coach is well aware, that is the list of freshmen to win the Wooden Award. AD, KD, Zion, Cooper, and Boozer. It's basically first ballot Hall of Fame talent across the board. Why would Boozer be any different? For me, Coach, I think Boozer's, and again, as we dive more into the process, could I be swayed? Maybe, but I'm not going to be swayed that Boozer isn't on the tier of the guys he's pretty much been better than for, the entire time we've been talking about these guys. So that's another reason why I think Washington trading back to Utah is so live, because this whole time to me, it's been a class of 3. But for Utah, it's all about one guy, and it's always been about one guy. Let's be very clear. The guy who owns the Jazz is a huge financial reason AJ Debanza has been playing basketball in the state of Utah for multiple years. Like, that's a real thing, guys. And this is the other thing, and Coach and I, we talked about this a little bit off air the other day. For Utah, what makes Debanza so valuable is you don't have to worry about him leaving. In the same way that you've had to worry about other guys leaving in the past, right? Debanza's going nowhere. He's clearly fine to be in Utah. And that, for the Jazz, Coach, is worth a lot more than it is to some of these other franchises. Let's call it what it is.
Yeah, I think that's the elephant in the room that we know. He's comfortable there. He wants to be there. So I think that is something that's going to, I think, work, ready, folks, to Washington's advantage in regards to what they asked in return to move from Utah to go from 2 to 1. But I must be remiss about talking about really quickly the two biggest losers in the draft lottery, and that's Indiana and that's Brooklyn.
Mm-hmm.
For Indiana, you basically have now given up a number 5 pick for Ivanka Zubac, who, listen, has really gotten better the last couple of years. I just don't know in that pick and roll system coming back with Halliburton if that is the center you want, right? I think you need more of a mobile, can pick and roll, pick and pop, honestly, like what Miles Turner was. And then there's Brooklyn, who now, if you think about the board and how it should go, Kevin, right? If it's the Bandit Peterson, Boozer, Caleb Wilson, 1-4, right? Let's just assume that those guys go 4 of the top 5 picks. You and I agree that's what it should be. You just took 3 point guards in last year's draft. So what is it? Is it Wagler? Is it Flemings? Is it Acuff? Is it Burries? Or ready? Or does Brooklyn either try to trade up to try and get in the top 3, top 4, or do they end up trading back? Because now what Sean Marks did last year and what Kevin and I were doing the draft and we were laughing about, well, guess what? It's come back again. And now you have to question the drafting of Brooklyn, because what are you going to do if it's Wagner, Flemings, Acuff on the board, and you just drafted 3 point guards last year? Traore, obviously, and Igor Demon, and I forget the third guard. But what are you going to do at this point? So it sets up a really interesting, not as much, we talk about winners, but Indiana and Brooklyn were 2 huge losers in this draft lottery.
Yeah, I think the reality for Indiana is your best case scenario is what Rudy Gobert has turned into for Minnesota. The trade at the time was still ridiculous, but they've been wildly successful. Multiple conference finals appearances with Rudy Gobert being a huge part of that. That is where the Pacers find themselves. It's a bad deal, okay? They gave up too much with the way it conveyed. They did. But it doesn't mean the Pacers can't win next. And I think those things can coexist. We'll be right back here, Pro Basketball Today. Pro basketball today here on SportsGrid. It's Kevin Walsh. It's Coach James Young. I want to get over the WNBA. We cover this league here, of course, on this show. It is a week into the season. There's been a few, different headlines I think you could really sink your teeth into right now. Everyone has played multiple games. I believe only the Atlanta Dream have not played a third game. The Connecticut Sun look like they're going to be in for a rough year. 0-4 to start their season. A minus 18.5 point differential right now. Joe, I'm going to throw it to you completely open. You tell me what is the first storyline that comes to mind for you 1 week into this WNBA season?
Increased scoring. Scoring is up in the WNBA, and it's been exciting. I think the New York Liberty have scored 95 points in all 4 games, including a 98-96 loss. We just saw Asia Wilson get 45 points last night. We saw an exciting game. So to me, scoring is up league-wide, and I think that is important because I think it makes it more exciting. But to me, what has really got my attention personally is before the season, when you looked at the Eastern Conference, everyone took New York, Indiana, and Atlanta and kind of separated themselves. And I kept saying to myself, man, I think Washington's going to be a lot better than people think. And you saw a tremendous performance out of Iriafen, and obviously, the play of Sonia Citron last night and to start the season. But getting Georgia Amore back from the ACL tear, which he tore ACL, I think it was the opening day of training camp last year. They have an interesting dynamic because they go double big with Austin and Iriafen, and then you bring, obviously, Lauren Betts off the bench. Washington is going to be a team to watch this year as that team that could take that next step up, kind of like Atlanta did last year, kind of come out of nowhere almost. I've been really impressed with the play of the Washington Mystics, even in their loss to the Liberty in a really, really tight, well-played game to start the season.
Yeah, I mean, the Mystics grabbing a road win in overtime against Indiana was super impressive. Sonia Citron looks like she is going to be a multi-time All-Star in this league, and maybe Kiki Irfan as well. In that game, though, JY, we saw Caitlin Clark really break out from beyond the arc. She was 7 of 17. She had only made 3 threes on, I believe, 17 attempts in her first 2 games combined. She was plus 14 in a 2-point loss, which is tough. Sometimes, it's how it goes. I think Aaliyah Boston might have picked up an injury in that game, only playing the 21 minutes. One thing I've noticed, it's early, but of course, Caitlin Clark has people who will overstate probably how good she is. Those people don't look as silly as those who are now rushing to basically tell you that she's not that good. Okay? There was a clip out there that referred to Caitlin Clark as Linsanity. That is wrong, to put it kindly.
Laughable. Laughable.
Caitlin Clark is one of the best players in the WNBA. Caitlin Clark, if you would like to argue she's off to a slow start, I think that's okay. She's averaging 25, 8, and 4. She is one of the best players in the game, and the way the way things operate in Indiana, she does have a chance to win league MVP. Now, it's going to be hard to do if Aja Wilson's giving you 45 on 80% from the floor, but Caitlin Clark statistically is going to be right there. And I don't know, when this season finishes for the Fever, right? I don't know if we're going to say, okay, huge success, or hey, what they're missing. They're probably missing still something. Maybe just overall depth, coach. I guess we'll find out. Mm-hmm. But what they are not missing is their superstar in Caitlin Clark. I think they absolutely have it in bunches. The other thing is, and man, I want to find a way to bring this up. Again, I think we're always pretty respectful. I know people get very sensitive over certain subjects, but We entered into a WNBA draft. Coach thought Olivia Miles should have gone first. I thought Awa Pham should have gone first. And I'll never get over, or I guess it'll be a long time before I'm not blown away. Coach, I don't know if you saw, the GM survey they do in the NBA? They did in the WNBA? They asked who's going to be the best player from this year's draft class within the next 5 years. 0 votes for AZ Fudd. 0 votes for AZ Fudd. I think 67% went to Pham, and the rest of them went to Olivia Miles. It's early for Dallas. It's super, super early. But, and I think AZ got banged up a little bit in the second game, and she missed a game, whatever it might be. Again, I think it's super likely, Coach. And I think we knew it in real time, so maybe it's confirmation bias. The Dallas Wings, with another one of the best players in the sport in Paige Beckers, didn't get the best player available with the first overall pick in this class.
Yeah, and especially the fact that AZ Fudd's coming off the bench right now. And I wrote a story on my Substack where I think this is going to haunt Dallas because Olivia Miles was in Fort Worth, 25 minutes away. Kurt Miller could have watched this kid every day. I watched this kid work. I've watched her in games. And in a pro-style offense, Olivia Miles, that makes sense. And when you look at the last time Dallas was so successful, the Mavericks, it was a 2-point guard set of Brunson and Luka. Olivia Miles is the prototypical point guard. It's perfect for Paige and Erika. That is what people keep missing. And it's going to be a discussion, and Awa Pham hasn't even started yet. So once she starts playing, then it's really going to pick up. This is going to come back to bite Dallas in the end because I think both of those players, Awa Pham and Olivia Miles, will have better careers than AZ Fudd. And that's not knocking AZ. I think she's going to have a good career. But you don't bring back Erika and then go get AZ. You let Erika go, then you bring this kid in. Doesn't make sense for those two.
Yeah, to be very clear, AZ Fudd will play in this league for a decade plus. She may even make an all-star game, okay? That's not the bar when you go first overall in the WNBA, okay? When you go first overall, you are supposed to be in MVP conversations, which I know JY and I think eventually Dominique Malonga will get into at some point or another. We'll look ahead to the upcoming slate for basketball today. All right, guys, here on a Saturday, we are going to quickly mention Game 7, maybe look ahead WNBA, look ahead series. But there were a couple of other quick news and notes, if you will, across the association that I know JY wanted to bring up. We'll start with this here, Coach. Daryl Morey out in Philadelphia. What do you think this means for the Sixers this offseason?
Purgatory. I don't know what they're going to do. I mean, there was a report of the modest bonus for Joel Embiid just to get Embiid out of there. Who do you trade? Who can you get? Because if you trade Embiid to start over, you're going to have to take on probably an equally bad contract and maybe even throw in draft compensation. Paul George, you're going to have to wait a year before you stretch him. And then if the guy that you could probably get the most value for, Tyrese Maxey, you want to hold on to him to that backcourt. So I think there's problems in Philadelphia. And unfortunately, the trade of Jared McCain was the final straw. And to me, this is more of an indictment on the owner of the 76ers caring more about the Washington Commanders than about the 76ers because he wanted to stay out of the luxury tax. So unfortunately, you either have to fire the coach or fire the GM because you can't fire the owners. And right now, if I'm a Philadelphia 76ers fan, I'm looking at the owners more than anybody else.
The thing I will say for Philly and why I don't think that they are in a nightmare spot, if you will, is Edgecombe and Maxey is a 1-2 punch you can feel good about. I still think for years to come. Steve Kerr comes back. Golden State's head coach had been flirting with going to ESPN for big money. He instead becomes the highest paid coach in the league on a 2-year deal, JY. My takeaway, this is an honest to God takeaway, because this is the only space I find it relevant. It increases what is a very small chance that LeBron goes to Golden State. Otherwise, the Warriors they feel very irrelevant. They have noteworthy players. Golden State misses the postseason as much as they make the postseason. People can rank Steph wherever they want. It's usually wrong, at all times. I think if Kerr coming back gives them a chance at LeBron, that's interesting. Otherwise, Golden State's probably not going to be in the mix for anything.
I also think it's a case for now we know that Steph's not going to move and he's going to play 2 more years and he's going to retire. Because they're not going to bring in a new coach, a new situation. They're going to let these guys go off into the sunset. Same thing with Draymond. Yeah, they hope they get LeBron or someone, a vet to come over there, sign and trade or whatever. But to me, it doesn't really do much in regards to just knowing that Steph's going to end his career in Golden State. And Steve Kerr will ride off 2 more years and that will be it. Great run, fabulous. But to me, I'm not looking at Golden State. Even if they get LeBron, I still don't put them in the top 4 in the Western Conference next year. But it'll be intriguing to see if LeBron goes there. I personally think we've talked about it. I think LeBron's going east, and I think there's possibilities there.
Oh, man, I got to tell you, I wouldn't be totally surprised if LeBron did end up on the Knicks. The phone call comes in. Yeah, Kevin and Coach can't do the show together. They can't do the show together. They just keep spending an hour on LeBron on the Knicks. They can't. One of them is making a good point. The other one's just doing the go New York in the back. But guys, listen, I'm coming home. But they want me back. Here's the thing I've been telling Knicks fans though. Whatever, dude. I'm hype. I've been telling Knicks fans, you think you want this until it happens, and then I'm out here blaming everybody else on that team. You're like, oh, this is cool. We got LeBron. I'm like, yep, cool. We need to trade Bronson. I don't like what I'm seeing here. We need to get him going. I want Rick fired, and I want Bronny in his place. You know what I'm saying? We're going to get real mean with him, man. JY, give me your early thoughts. Game number 7 here. Winner, of course, will move on to face New York Pistons, a 4.5-point favorite. Total for a Game 7, as you would expect, real low, 205.5.
I expect the game to be low scoring, so probably under. I'm going to make. I can't believe I'm going to say this. I have this crazy feeling that Cleveland's going to win. All the momentum with Detroit.
Wow.
I feel like you're going to get Donovan Mitchell. I think you're going to get the silence of critics of James Harden, and it's going to be the Cade show. And I have this weird premonition, and maybe this is me as a Knicks fan wanting the Knicks to play Cleveland in the next round. Honestly, folks, that may be it. But I feel like Donovan Mitchell's not going to be as bad as he was in the second half of game number 6. He's going to be much better. I think Harden does enough. And if you bottle up Cade, who is going to be the guy that takes the shot? That's where I'm going.
I'd be really surprised if Detroit lost this game. Being at home for game number 7 is really advantageous. And I wouldn't be surprised if they close as a bigger favorite than 4.5. It's been a great hour to be here with all of you, and as of course alongside Coach James Young. Appreciate everybody checking in with us. For Kevin Walsh, we'll see you guys next time right here. Easy now.